Part 47. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 461. Chapter 461, First the villain, then the gentleman. Li Lao-san said, the college originally had a canteen, but the food was too unpalatable and the students didn't like it. What Zhou Shanchang meant was that the tables, chairs, benches, pots and pans in the canteen were all given to our family for a price of 102. Of course, from now on, our family will purchase rice, flour, grains, oils, vegetables, meat, and eggs by ourselves, and we must ensure that students are well fed, but the food prices cannot be too high. After all, it is a place for teaching and educating people, not a business street for making money, and many students are not from wealthy families. Chief Zhou Shan does not want to burden the students. Mrs. Li nodded, thought for a while and said, Zhou Shanchang still takes care of our family. There are so many things that I can't buy for 100 taels. The most important thing is that we don't have to open a shop at home, and we save a lot of money. All the students stay at the college for lunch at noon, which guarantees half of the daily business. Yes, Mother Li Lao-san said, I also felt that I had taken advantage of it, but I was a little hesitant, otherwise I would have agreed at that time. Zhao Yuru is a woman, careful and timid, so she interjected at this moment, also, Mother, our family has taken over the academy canteen, and the business of all the food shops outside will definitely be affected. I'm afraid that someone will jealousy, secretly holding back. Not to mention that our family bought 30 acres of land and a yard. We just said that several children are in the academy. If anything happens to the children, no amount of money can make up for it. Mrs. Li frowned. The third daughter-in-law's worries were justified. She couldn't think of any good ideas at the moment, so she said, you guys can stay at home tonight. When your eldest brother and the others come back, we will discuss it together. Jiyan ate snacks, listened to the elders talking, and pondered in her heart. College cafeteria, this is similar to the university cafeteria in the previous life. It's just that there are thousands of people in universities and only a few hundred in academies. If he takes it over, the 30 acres of land bought by Sanbo will be enough to grow vegetables directly, which will be enough for self-production and sales. Rice, flour, grains, and oils can also be purchased together to reduce costs. As for the style of the meals, we still refer to the set meal model of the original shop, which facilitates daily arrangement of work, saves manpower, and allows students to choose freely. If there are not enough manpower, you can also recruit some from students and work-study. As for how to arrange the rest of the colleagues, of course we should let them open a small window. If the students want to change the taste, they can just buy it. However, if the food they make tastes bad and the students don't like it, it has nothing to do with the Li family. Furthermore, opening a small kitchen window in their canteen is not free, they have to pay rent, which can be considered an additional income for the Li family. The more she thought about it, she simply took the snack box and ran to the west room where her second uncle lived. She found the 4 treasures of the study and started writing while eating. Mrs. Li was afraid that her granddaughter would get into trouble again and stay closed for a few days, so she quietly leaned on the door and took a few glances, guessing that her granddaughter had a good idea, so she felt relieved. Sure enough, Jiyan called Sanbo in very quickly, and they murmured for half an hour. Finally, when Li Lao-san came out, he held a few pieces of paper in his hand and was so happy that he couldn't open his mouth from ear to ear. At dusk, Mr. Li, and Tao Hongying all came back. During the day, Li Lao-san passed by the city and visited Cyclamen, so everyone knew that they were at home. Everyone was sitting around, and they all smiled when they saw Jiyan holding her special small bowl and eating with a greasy mouth. Fat girl is the treasure of the family, Pistachio. She has not been seen these days, and everyone is having a hard time eating and sleeping well. But they tried many ways, whether it was giving money or buying delicious food and fun things, but it was of no use. Unexpectedly, when the third son and his wife came back, the fat girl actually recovered as before. Everyone was very happy. Pork ribs on one side and meatballs on the other side. In the blink of an eye, the small bowl of good news was filled to the brim. Mrs. Lee was afraid that her granddaughter would be full, so she quickly started talking. Ji Yi and Lu Yang have been away for more than a month, isn't it time to come back? Ever since the two boys brought back several boats of seafood a year ago, they can no longer trap them. Years later, the fleet went to Quanzhou again. They ran away again on the pretext that they wanted to deal with Zhang Jin. Li Zhensheng counted the days and said with a smile, "Don't worry about it, mother. They should be back in 7 or 8 days." Li Laosan got a lot of good advice from his niece. He was so excited that he couldn't hide his words. He smiled and said to Tao Hongying, "Brothers and sisters, after dinner, help me and your sister-in-law think about the menu. We want to contract the canteen of the academy come down." Tao Hongying was surprised when she heard this, and she was even more happy for her brother and sister-in-law. She quickly responded, "Okay, third brother, let's talk about it after dinner." Li Lao was also happy for his younger brother and joked, "The business of our third Lao Li has become bigger. If we really take over the college canteen, wouldn't there be hundreds of people eating there every day? If you think about it, it's more expensive than Cyclamen Lively." Li Zhensheng laughed when he heard this, "Isn't that right? I open my restaurant cautiously every day, just for fear of ruining its reputation and no one coming to support it. Lausanne's cafeteria is different whether it's delicious or not, students have to eat there, otherwise they'll go hungry. This business is really great." But after saying this, he gave his younger brother a few more words. However, the third child still has to be careful. The academy is full of students. It would rather taste worse, but it must be clean to prevent others from eating its stomach, delaying studies. In addition, we should give away more profits. After all, we are in an academy. It is not good to have a reputation of being greedy for money in the future. The children at home will have to take scientific examinations. These classmates in the academy are all well connected. Of course, you have to work hard and make money. In this way, I will give you 500 taels every year from now on." Before he could finish speaking, Li Laosan and Zhao Yuru quickly waved their hands to stop him. Li Laosan hurriedly said, "No, brother, we don't want your money. We bought 30 acres of land and grew vegetables at home. We have already saved a lot of money. Even if the profit of the canteen is lower, it is enough." Zhao Yuru also said, "Yes, and there are many people in the academy, so we can make small profits but quick turnover, so it won't be too bad." Li Zhensheng nodded and said nothing more, but he had a plan in mind. Since the younger brother doesn't need money, he can send fish, shrimps, and dried seafood to the academy to add some new dishes to the students, which can also save costs. Everyone ate while talking. When they were full, the table was removed, and Li Lao took a pen and paper to help copy. Li Zhensheng, Tao Hongying, and Li Laosan talked to each other and had a lively discussion. Soon, most of the menu was ordered. As for the matter of inviting food shops outside the academy to open small kitchen windows in the academy canteen, Li Zhensheng gave some suggestions. The rental price should be higher than other places, but the monthly payment can be made. This gives those colleagues the opportunity to try. Whether it succeeds or fails in the future, they have no reason to complain about the Li family. Also, these people must be supervised when entering the canteen. If they refuse to use genuine materials, or pass off inferior materials, or if the students have a problem, the Li family is qualified to kick them out. In short, be a villain first and then a gentleman, set the binding regulations first, and you will be invincible if any problems arise. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 462. Chapter 462, Beat Your Chest and Guarantee It. Li Zhensheng has been in business for more than 10 years. In terms of business experience and control of people's hearts, he is much better than Li Laosan and his wife. Having said that, let alone Li Laosan and his wife, Li Lao'er, Tao Hongying, and Ji Yan also benefited a lot. Especially the good news, I can't help but feel sorry for my uncle. If it weren't for the Wang family's evil hand that cut off his path to King Yun, I'm afraid his uncle would still have a place in the court now. Everyone had a discussion, and when they turned around and saw Ji Yan sitting on a chair, holding his chin, with a look of regret on his chubby little face, they couldn't help but laugh. Li Zhensheng pinched his niece's cheek and said, "Fu Niu'er, your third uncle has accepted Dean Zhou's favor this time. See if you can find 2 flowers as a thank you gift." Ji Yan quickly nodded in agreement. In order to support my mother's private vegetable business, she now has a lot of good flowers saved in her space. Most of them were collected with the help of the housekeeper of the home mansion. Some were half dead when they were delivered, some were just flower roots, and some were just seeds. But the nursery is as good as ever, and now the flowers have grown luxuriantly. Rows of flower pots are placed in the back garden of the small courtyard of the space. She has to water and raise them from time to time, and she is almost dead from exhaustion. Now that she has given away 2 pots, she can feel a little more relaxed. With these thoughts in mind, she patted her chest and said, "Don't worry, third uncle, whatever flowers you want, they will be there." Li Laosan rubbed his niece's hair and said with a smile, "Okay, wait for the third uncle to inquire, and then ask your brother Huan to come back and get it. If not, don't worry, the third uncle will think of a solution." "Yeah. Yeah," Ji Yan smiled and hugged the third uncle's thigh like a baby. "The third uncle is the best." Li Laosan crouched down and carried his little niece on his back, planning to take a walk around the courtyard to eat some food. Li Lao'er was surprised and couldn't help but ask, "When did Fu Niu'er become so close to the third brother?" "Huh, kiss me all the time." The 2 men who walked to the door almost retorted together, making Li Lao'er and everyone laugh. Early on the next morning, Li Laosan and his wife were going back to Luoan. Mrs. Li was worried about her grandson who was about to take the Tongsheng exam. She also wanted to take her granddaughter to relax, so she told her son and daughter-in-law, "I heard that the academy is going to arrange for students to take the Tongsheng exam." Jiaran was supposed to take the Tongsheng exam when he was in Junyang. Unfortunately, there was a severe drought that year, and the court was in a mess. Later, the capital was moved directly, which delayed him from taking the exam until now. Jiaran has been studying for several years. "I think it will be easy for this boy to pass the exam, but you still need to take more care of him. In 3 to 5 days, the village will be busy with spring plowing, so I will take Fu Niu'er to stay for a while." "Okay, Mom. It's better for you and Fu Niu'er to go early and take Hongying with you," Zhao Yuru said with a smile. "It's our first time to do such a big business, so we didn't know what to do, so we were hoping that Mom would come and take charge of us." "Don't say that, how can you look down on yourself? You 2 are the most stable and cautious people. You can do everything well. Mom is just nagging a few more words." Old Mrs. Li patted her son and daughter-in-law and chased them away. "Hurry up and get on your way. Good news too, hug my third uncle, and wave my little fat hands happily." Li Laosan and his wife also smiled and waved in response. It happened that at this time, sister-in-law Qian came over in a carriage to deliver something. She said hello to Li Laosan and his wife and passed by. Sister-in-law Qian moved down a lot of chicken, fish, meat, and eggs, which made Mrs. Li angrily ask, "Why did Jinro bring so many things here again?" Sister-in-law Qian smiled and replied, "Our wife said that the village is too busy for spring plowing, so we sent some food to replenish the health of the family. Spring plowing is hard, and only by eating well can we have the strength to work." Old Mrs. Li knew this was an excuse. After all, who in the Li family needs to work in the fields now? The eldest brother, Jie Huan, and Tao Hongying are all in restaurants in the city, the third brother and his wife are in Luoan with their children, and the fourth child is in the dock military camp. Nowadays, there are only 3 people who live in the house permanently and can guard the yard. One is the first-grade wife, the princess, and the uncle. Even if they want to work, the villagers can't let them do it. Mrs. Li wanted to load some return gifts into the car, but there was nothing good at home at this time of the year. In the end, Ji Yin took her grandma's hand and went into the warehouse, and then brought out a basket of fruits and a basket of vegetables. The fruit is just fine, you can still see it occasionally in the market. But green oil beans, slender cowpeas, crispy cucumbers, and purple and black eggplants are hard to come by. Sister-in-law Kian was happy to see it and said, "It's easy to get angry in this spring day. Our wife is too busy and has a bad appetite. Recently, the corners of her mouth have become rotten. With so many green vegetables, she can eat a few more bites." Mrs. Li quickly said, "In 1 month, the flowers on the mountain will bloom. Then let her come to the village to stay for a while. By then, all the vegetables at home will come down, and she can eat as much as she wants." Sister-in-law Kian responded and hurried back. Since there were only a few people in the family, it was impossible to eat all the food, so Mrs. Li called Huaniyang and sister-in-law Lu over, and the family shared some. Huaniyang and sister-in-law Lu did not refuse. After all, they were also on good terms with Mrs. Kui. Huaniyang said, "I am making shoes these days, and I will bring a pair for Sister Kui and Auntie." Sister-in-law Lu also smiled and said, "What a coincidence, I am sewing middle coats, so I have brought 2 sets." Ji Yin took advantage of the excitement they were talking about and quietly walked out along the wall. Unfortunately, Hui Niang caught her and said, "Lazy girl, where are you going? Come here quickly and show me the purse you sewed yesterday." Ji Yin bared her small white teeth and smiled stupidly, pretending not to understand. What else does Auntie understand? The little apprentice who has been diligent for a few days is a few days later. But before she could speak, Mrs. Li was already helping her granddaughter to pretend, "Oh, the third child and Yura came back yesterday, and Fu Niur was busy with them." She forgot that she still had her purse unstitched. "Okay. Let's do it tonight. No, I'll sew it tomorrow." Huaniyang has experienced the helplessness of Aunt He. It is so difficult to teach an apprentice. But the old man opened his mouth and the fat girl hugged her arm and shook her like a baby. What else could she say? Mrs. Li said she believed in her third son and daughter-in-law, but she still couldn't let go. The 2 of them have to take care of 5 boys and run the academy cafeteria. They only have Aunt Wu and Uncle Wu around to help them. No matter how they think about it, they are tired. So she asked Chui Yun to cook more good dishes for dinner. After Li Zhensheng and Li Laoer came back, she invited the village chief, Uncle Zhao and Lu Baiatu over. As for Dr. Zhang, the old man has made progress in his research on anesthetics recently. He is now addicted to experiments and refuses to come back. No good wine or good food can make him leave the job he loves. Old Mrs. Li had no choice but to ask Zheng He to send a food box. Everyone is used to coming to Li's house for dinner, and no one feels uncomfortable. Eat and drink. When you are full, start talking about business. Hearing that Li Lao-san was going to book the academy's cafeteria, the village chief and others were very happy. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 463. Chapter 463. Take your granddaughter to skip class. If nothing else, I would like to say that once we are close to the academy, it will be easier for children from various families in the village to study in the academy. What's more, Mrs. Lee still needs to find people in the village to help this time. When they first settled in Broken Gold Beach, they had to open up wasteland, plant fruit trees, build new villages, and take care of the hot spring valley. Everyone in the village wishes they had 8 hands, and there are not enough people. Nowadays, everything is stable. Except for spring plowing and autumn harvest, people in the village are generally free. The village chief works hard every day to find jobs for the villagers, fearing that when they are idle, they will be tempted to do bad things by people with ulterior motives like Zhang Jin. For this reason, the village chief was so anxious that he almost lost his gray beard. Fortunately, I gave him a pillow when he was dozing off. The Lee family had something to do and needed help, but it solved his big problem. The village chief asked straight to the point, "Old lady, how many people are needed in Luoan, young or old?" Mrs. Lee thought about it and said, "The third one bought 30 acres of land to grow vegetables to provide 3 meals a day for the college students. Such a large vegetable field needs to be taken care of, picked, and guarded so that no one else can let it go. What a disaster, why do we need 3 or 4 people? There are still 5 or 6 people in the cafeteria, but I guess they won't be used, otherwise the students won't go out to eat in the past 2 years. Lao San and the others are soft-hearted and thin-skinned. They only have Aunt Wu and Uncle Wu, but they are afraid that they won't be able to convince them. We have to add 3 or 4 more people, slowly get familiar with the work, and then clear out those lazy guys." Everyone nodded when they heard this, and the village chief thought for a while and said, "After all, if there is a night watch and work in the vegetable field, it is best for a family with both young and old. Over in the cafeteria, put some young people who can speak well and have bright minds. It's best if they can cook and can help at any time. Why don't you ask Sun Erzao and his wife, and De Zhuang and his wife?" Mrs. Lee laughed when she heard this. De Zhuang's daughter-in-law and Sun's second sister-in-law were both famous shrewd people in the village, and Sun's second brother and De Zhuang were even more young and strong. Even if there is a conflict with someone in the academy, the 2 couples can kill everyone without having to come forward, and they are invincible. "Thank you for your trouble, brother, this is the best arrangement," Mrs. Lee quickly agreed. Li Zhensheng also said, "The villagers are here to help our family, so we can't treat them badly. In this way, compared to Uncle Wu and Aunt Wu, from now on they will get work points every day, pay their wages according to their work every month, and settle the accounts together at the end of the year. If they do well, there will be red envelopes during the new year. In addition, there will be red envelopes for the 4 seasons. There is a set of clothes." The village chief nodded happily, "Okay, that's good, it's already very rich. I'm stuck in the village, living a comfortable life, and have no future. Going out with your family to see the world is a good opportunity that no amount of money can buy. No, it's our family that should thank the folks for their help." Mrs. Lee quickly waved her hands and said sincerely, "This canteen is a major matter for students and gentlemen to eat food. If there is anything wrong, our conscience will not be able to bear it. No matter how good the outsiders are, they are not as solid and reliable as the fellow villagers like us who have worked hard together until now." "Yes, that's right." Uncle Zhao nodded in agreement and suggested, "Over there in the vegetable field, if there is not enough manpower, the 6 of us old guys can help at any time. At this point, the matter is settled." The village chief went back at night and counted all the people in the village with his fingers. Finally, a family of 4 was appointed to take care of the vegetable plot. The head of this family was Wu Laoju, who had the same surname as Aunt Wu and her family, but they were not actually related by blood. But when there was a severe drought, because the Li family had a well, they took refuge in the village to survive. Later on, we escaped from famine together and worked hard together, until we got to where we are today. This family is related to Uncle Wu San, and they usually live together as brothers and move around frequently. Wu Laoju and his wife are both honest people who are never lazy at work. They also have a 50-year-old father and a 10-year-old daughter at home. Going to Luoan like this, the couple worked very well. Father Wu was on watch all night, and the little girl could help at any time. So, on the morning of the next day, the village chief gathered the 4 members of the Wu family, the Sun family, and the Dazhuang family together and told them about their errands to Luoan. Everyone was very happy and agreed immediately. Don't say too much, just look at Aunt Wu and Uncle Wu. How long have they been with Li Lao-san and his wife? They are well fed and clothed, and their behavior and speech have improved a lot. They are definitely more successful than staying in the village. I heard that in addition to the village's dividend last year, the food shop also gave me a dividend of 10 taels of silver. As long as they are not lazy at work and remain loyal, they will definitely do well in the future. The 3 families were very happy and were busy tidying up when they got home. Every house in the village lives next to each other, and they all share gables, so there are no secrets at all. Soon, almost everyone knew about it. Some people were envious, some were curious, and some even ran to ask the village chief if they wanted to go to Luoan too. As a result, the village chief waved his pipe and pot to chase people away. Why are you so anxious? The days are getting better and better, and there will be more places that need your efforts in the future. Are you afraid that you won't have a place? Work hard for me. Who will do it? Well, I'll prioritize whoever is next time. The villagers were sprayed with saliva. Thinking about it carefully, it was the same thing. As long as you hold on to the thick thighs of the Li family, there are still many opportunities. Li Lao-san's small restaurant can be turned into the academy's large canteen. Then Mr. Li can open more and more restaurants and shops. Quanzhou's small fleet can also become a large fleet. At that time, we will definitely need to find more people in the village. Maybe the errands at that time will be better than the errands in the canteen. So, the village finally calmed down after a day of turmoil. Seeing this, Mrs. Li quickly packed up her gifts and rushed to Luoan. The carriage at home was not enough, so he hired 2 more in the city. At 3 o'clock in the morning, everyone set out. Jiyan was extremely happy, because she would be away for at least 6 or 7 days, and she wouldn't have to learn the rules and be a female celebrity. She was beaten by the naughty boys before, and her brain was twitching. She worked hard for a few days and exposed her old background. Her precocious wisdom was known to both Aunt He and Hui Niang. It will not be easy to pretend to be stupid or try to fish in the future, hey. Fortunately, she still had a good partner in her grandma, who took her to skip class directly. The good news was lying on the open car window, and the gentle spring breeze felt very comfortable on my face. In the distant fields, farmers were working hard. Plant good seeds in spring and water them with sweat, so that in autumn you can embrace a bumper harvest with peace of mind. From time to time, carriages passed by on the road. I wonder if the people in the carriages were enjoying the spring scenery again, and the horses' hooves were also a little lazy. In the small town of Luoan, Li Lao-san and Zhao Yuru were so busy that they didn't even have time to take a breath. Suddenly, they saw my mother and people coming there early. The couple was so grateful that their eyes almost turned red. I am the Avalakai Tesvare who saves those who are in trouble, and I will not accept any refutation. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 464. Chapter 464. Everything is difficult at the beginning. Mom, why did you come so fast? We also wanted Jia Huan to send a message back so that mother could come and take charge early. We are really too busy. Who would have thought that mother has found all the people? Zhao Yuru hugged her. The mother-in-law's arm was as dependent on her mother as she said. Li Lao-san didn't say anything, but he breathed a sigh of relief and had a smile on his face. He needed to plant seedlings and water the newly purchased fields, but he was too busy, so he hired 2 people nearby. As a result, he had to keep an eye on them all the time, and even had to lead these 2 people to work, otherwise they would be lazy, which was really embarrassing and tiring. The canteen has not been cleaned for 2 or 3 years. It is extremely dirty. Before it can be put into use, it needs to be thoroughly cleaned first. The people in the cafeteria were all relatives of Mr. Academy, and even the same clan as the dean, so it was difficult to get rid of them. But keep these people, they are getting paid and they are not doing their job to the fullest. Wash the basin and it will leave mud marks on the bottom, so it is better not to wash it. Just now, he was really angry and gave a few words of reprimand, but these people immediately complained of stomachache and ran away without a trace. They are really in a dilemma. They are afraid of offending their husband and Dinjo, so they cannot deal with these people casually. At this moment, they suddenly saw the old lady coming, and they felt even more aggrieved, just like children who had relied on them. When Mrs. Lee saw her son and daughter-in-law acting like this, she could guess most of the reasons without asking. Otherwise, why would she come here in such a hurry? At the end of the day, honest children are easily bullied. In fact, to live in this world, there is nothing wrong with being kind, but kindness should also have some edge. As long as you catch the mistakes and hold on to the truth, don't let anyone tolerate it. After all, no one is a biological child, so there is no need to coddle them. Mrs. Lee patted her daughter-in-law, glared at her son, and said angrily, "Look at your worthless appearance, let alone our Lee family, we can't afford to lose face when you go out. You are going to be a big boss in the future, how can you be bullied for such a small thing?" Tao Hongying knew that her third brother and sister-in-law were kind-hearted people, and it would be difficult to adapt to such a big business suddenly, and she would definitely be a little confused. So, she advised, everything is difficult at the beginning, but the third brother and the third sister-in-law have already organized things well. With experience this time, it will be even smoother to open a big restaurant and do big business in the future. Li Laosan and Zhao Yuru both blushed when they heard this. They quickly put away their aggrieved expressions and straightened their backs again. Zhao Yuru greeted, "Mom, go and settle down at home first. Don't worry about work." Old Mrs. Lee nodded and saw Li Laosan carrying his little granddaughter and taking everyone to the back street courtyard. Wenjuan was cooking at home when she suddenly saw her grandmother and aunt coming. She was also happy. "The family has been busy these days, and my parents-in-law are very tired, so she also wants to help." But her mother-in-law felt sorry for her being young and thin-skinned, and wouldn't let her go out to show her face. She was in a hurry and had no choice but to take over the cooking and laundry. Orange Mrs. Lee took her grandson's wife's hand and was very satisfied to see that her face was rosy and she looked fatter than before she got married. Mrs. Lee smiled and said, "Good boy, listen to grandma. You must eat more on weekdays. If you gain weight, you will be blessed. But you can't be as thin as a chicken. If the wind blows, you will be blown away." Wenjuan blushed, but felt extremely warm in her heart. She responded obediently, "Grandma, don't worry, I eat a lot at every meal, and my mother also said she wants me to gain weight." "That's right." Mrs. Lee picked up her fat granddaughter and said in a showy way, "Look at us Funiurs, how lucky we are so happy just by looking at her chubby appearance." Wenjuan couldn't help but laugh. If she were like Funiur, she would really be unbearable. Zhao Yuru and Tao Hongying saw that the old and young were chatting happily, so they went to the side room hand in hand. Tao Hongying opened the box and put the clothes and belongings of her mother-in-law and daughter in, and asked, "Sister-in-law, this child Wenjuan seems to be very close to you. Now that we live so close to each other, is that concubine in their family no longer a demon?" "Forget it," Zhao Yuru waved her hands and sighed, "that concubine didn't act like a monster, but Mr. Peng didn't stop looking at her." I heard that my new wife will be married in a month. She is less than 20 years old and can write poems and paintings. Mr. Peng is very satisfied. Wen Juan felt embarrassed. After all, she was going to call her mother in the future, but she was no more than 2 years older than her, but she couldn't stop her, so she cried hard. After that, she didn't miss her family anymore. She lived so close to her. She didn't move even once every day and half a month. On the contrary, she cooks and washes clothes at home every day, and she has to do needlework in her spare time. It makes me feel bad. I don't have a daughter either, and this child has a hard life. From now on, I will treat her as my biological daughter. Tao Hongying nodded. Third sister-in-law, you are kind-hearted and good-tempered. Wen Juan is really lucky to be your daughter-in-law. Zhao Yuru sighed, a little frustrated. I am bullied because of my good temper. Tao Hongying put her arms around her sister-in-law's shoulders and walked out. She was as heroic as a heroine, and said cheerfully, Sister-in-law, don't worry, you have a good temper. I am a shrew. Sister-in-law, wait and see how I will vent my anger on you. Zhao Yuru was coaxed by her sister-in-law and she also laughed. Soon, the food was served, and Jiaran also brought his 4 younger brothers back. Jian and Jiaxi didn't know what they were discussing. They were all smiling. When they walked in and suddenly saw their grandma, they were so happy that they went crazy. Nai, why are you here? Jia 11 rushed forward and hugged her grandma and asked. Brother Li and Brother Cat also cheered and ran over to join in the fun. Jian couldn't squeeze in, so he turned around and hugged his sister, then squeezed into his mother's arms. It turned out that she underestimated her sister's weight. Together, the brother and sister weighed more than 100 kilograms. The mother almost fell over with the chair when she bumped into her. Jian saw that he was in trouble, turned around and ran away with his sister in his arms. The reason he found was very appropriate to the situation. Sister, let's go wash our hands. If we don't wash our hands, we can't eat. Jian was carried by her brother and ran away. When she saw her brother staggering, she was frightened. If she is thrown out, her little white teeth will not be saved. How will she be able to chew bones and fruits in the future? Fortunately, Jiaran was at the door and quickly rescued his sister. Jiaran raised his hand and knocked on his younger brother. How old are you? But you are still so unsteady, you accidentally dropped Funiur. Jian chuckled and hid behind his brother, fearing that my mother would find fault. Tao Hongying was just startled by her son. If they hadn't seen each other for a long time and they were so close now, she would have treated her son to a meal of fried pork with bamboo shoots. After a lot of laughter, the old and young finally sat down to eat, and the food was almost cold. A half-grown boy, a poor man. When the 5 Jiaran brothers were all growing up, reading was also taxing on their brains, and their appetites were particularly good. Wen Juan cooked 4 dishes, all served in small pottery pots, plus a large pot of snow-white steamed buns and a large pot of rice porridge. When Mrs. Li and the others passed by Zindu, they bought 3 more roasted chickens and 4 kilograms of donkey meat steamed dumplings. At this moment, all the dishes are put on the table. I dare not say it is like a hill, but it is also very crowded. However, as soon as the boys moved their chopsticks, the food disappeared in a flash. Especially after Mrs. Li, Jian, and Tao Hongying put down their chopsticks, the remaining pots and bowls were emptied in the blink of an eye. Evidently the boys were still modest before, waiting for their families to have enough to eat before they cleaned up the battlefield. Old Mrs. Li was happy but also worried. She must save more food at home in the future. Her grandchildren's stomachs are like bottomless pits. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 465. Chapter 465 Mrs. Li teaches her son. After eating, the boys were going back to the academy soon, and they were a little reluctant to leave. Especially when Brother Cat hugged Fat Sister, his face turned red from exhaustion and he didn't let go. It was Mrs. Lee who spoke again, saying, "Go and study when you should. We are staying for 10.5 months this time, so we are not afraid of not being able to see each other. Besides, we are very busy at home, so hurry up and open the canteen. You will eat in the canteen at noon, and you will have 2 hours of free time in the evening, not to mention playing at home for a while. Even sleeping is enough." "Seriously? That's great, you can kick enough by playing football." Brother Cat was immediately happy, put his sister down and ran away. "The academy has already rung the bell. If you don't get there, you will be punished." The other boys also waved to Grandma and then chased Brother Cat. Jiaran was more cautious and kept behind him, calling his brothers to watch the road from time to time and not to hit anyone. Jiyan stood in the middle of the ground, blinked his big eyes twice, and was still a little confused. He wanted to speak but yawned loudly. Having just eaten, my brother was dozing off in his arms. He was in a daze. Why was he suddenly left behind? Mrs. Lee was amused by her granddaughter and quickly took her back to the house to take a nap. After her granddaughter fell asleep, Mrs. Lee told Shui Ling to watch over her. Then she took he and called Li Lao-san and Wu Laoju's family to go to the vegetable field for a walk. Tao Hongying had nothing to do and followed Zhao Yuru to the academy cafeteria. Of course, Dazu and his wife, Sun Erzao and his wife, also followed. The 30 acres of land purchased by Li Lao-san is just to the west of the town. He happened to pass by it when he came from Kyoto. It can be said that the location is quite good. The fields have been well taken care of before and are very fertile. There is a small village next to the field, with more than 30 households. Looking at the houses from a distance, most of them are made of thatch and adobe, and they are not particularly wealthy. The 2 vegetable gardeners hired by Li Lao-san before were from the village here. At this moment, he felt a little regretful. He helped his mother and said, "Mom, I didn't think carefully when I bought the land. The neighbors here are not good." Old Mrs. Lee patted her son and said with a smile, "It's the same everywhere, there are good people and bad people. And they are bad people, but they are just lazy and taking advantage. They are not really evil people. Don't be discouraged. Since things have happened, let's find a way to solve them. There is no use in complaining about ourselves." Li Lao-san felt even more guilty after hearing this. "It was really unfilial to ask my mother to persuade and bother me even though I am so old." Aunt Li called Grandma. He took some melon seeds and peanuts in the car, and then led her son to the entrance of the village. It is afternoon now, and everyone who should go out to work has already gone out, leaving only some old people and children in the village. Old Mrs. Lee was dressed neatly, but the material was ordinary cotton, and there was only a silver hairpin inserted into the bun on the back of her head. Li Lao-san was wearing grey coarse cloth clothes and trousers when he wanted to go to the fields, no different from ordinary farmers. As soon as the 2 women appeared, the old women sewing under the big tree at the entrance of the village stopped and stared at them. Mrs. Lee didn't care. She stepped forward with a smile and said, "Sisters, I'm doing needlework. My legs and feet are sore. Can I lend you a place to rest?" Holding out their hands to avoid hitting the smiling man, the old women quickly nodded in greeting, and one of the oldest ones responded, "You're welcome, sister. If you don't mind our dirty place, just sit down." "Oh, you don't mind anything, everyone does." A native who pretends to be a farmer, Mrs. Lee laughed and shouted to her son, "Silly boy, what are you waiting for? Bring me some snacks and I'll share them with the elder sisters." Li Lao-san quickly stepped forward and handed the box in his hand to his mother. Mrs. Lee first greeted the 3 or 4 naughty children playing in the mud next to her. When she saw that their hands were dirty, she took off the handkerchief and wiped them clean. Then she opened the box and gave each of them a small handful of crispy peanuts. The rest she put among the old women. Old sisters, have a try, this is my daughter-in-law's craftsmanship. The old women had smiles on their faces for a long time. After all, whose children are loved by others? Mrs. Lee did not mind that their children were dirty. She not only wiped their hands but also gave them food. This made them very happy and they were naturally much more enthusiastic than before. An old woman in grey clothes took a few peanuts first and said with a smile, "Then we are not polite. Old sister, your wife is so filial. When you go out for a walk, I will bring you snacks." "Yes," the companion sitting next to her agreed, "I'm so lucky, my wife. She wishes I had died early to save some food for the family." Old Mrs. Lee waved her hand and said, "Every family has problems that are difficult to recite. Those who have children are troubled, and those without children will have no one to rely on in their old age. The head of our original village has no children. He just adopted a young couple as adopted sons and daughters a few days ago, and I want to have someone to rely on when I grow old." "Oh, how can this be the same as the village chief of our village? Our village chief has no children." "It's different. The village chief has no children, but his brother's family has 5 boys, and they are all very filial and capable." A few old women ate melon seeds and peanuts, and occasionally shouted at their children, and their chat with Mrs. Lee became more and more heated. Li Lao-san was sitting under a tree a few steps away. He didn't pay attention at first, but he gradually started to understand what it was like. After finishing the melon seeds and peanuts, Mrs. Lee's mouth felt dry and she waved goodbye to the old ladies. When the two of them were walking on the road again, Mrs. Lee asked, "Third brother, can you hear anything?" Li Lao-san nodded vigorously, looking very excited. "Mom, you are really awesome. You want to leave the vegetable garden errands to the village chief's nephews, don't you?" Mrs. Lee smiled and shook her head, "Yes, and no." Li Lao-san was confused when he heard this, and Mrs. Lee had no choice but to continue to teach her son, "The vegetables grown in the vegetable garden are to be supplied to the canteen. If there is any problem, it will be a big deal. Therefore, we can only grow vegetables from our own family that we can trust take charge. How do you want to appease these people? They treat our family like fat on their pillows and want to take a bite at any time." Li Lao-san worried. Mrs. Lee pointed to the fields in the distance. "Of course they will make the fat meat their own. There are only a few hundred people in the academy, so it is enough to allocate 10 acres of land to grow vegetables, and the remaining 20 acres of land will be rented out. The village chief's younger brother's family is definitely the first choice, but it can only give 10 acres. The other 10 acres will be found in the village, and the two families will supervise each other to guard against the dominance of one family and the slave of the master. In the future, if there are any chores in the vegetable field, we can also ask the women of the tenants' families. In this way, if our vegetable field is damaged, they will not be able to earn pocket money. Even if our family gets angry and abandons the job, their family will not even be able to do it. No more fields to plant. Let them know that if our family is good, they will be good, and if our family is not good, they will be good too. From now on, we don't have to worry about it, they will take the initiative to help take care of the vegetable plot and maintain our home." Li Lao-san's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he happily said, "Mom, this is a good idea." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 466. Chapter 466 Abandoned. Silly boy, old Mrs. Lee glared at her son angrily, and finally sighed, "People in this world do everything for themselves, and that's right. After all, if you don't serve yourself, you will be punished by heaven and earth. But if you want to succeed, if you want others to facilitate you, you have to think of ways to do it. For example, the simplest way is to give way. If you shout, "Give way, I want to pass," others will be reluctant. After all, if they give way to you, it will be troublesome for them. You should shout, "Hot water, spill it, don't get burned." Everyone was afraid of suffering a loss and immediately got out of the way. In the final analysis, just try your best to turn your business into everyone's business, and everything will go smoothly. Li Lao-san was not an idiot, so he began to try to draw inferences from one example. "Mom, do you think I would use part of the profits from the cafeteria to hold some kind of calligraphy and painting competition every year, and buy some pens, inks, paper and inkstones as prizes? Would that be okay? In this way, the students will not think that we are businessmen doing business, but are part of the college, and they will feel less resistant. Is this good for Grn and the others?" Without waiting for my mother to respond, he continued, "The teachers and students in the academy all know that we have good flowers. Do you want to send a few pots occasionally and let the teachers tell the students about it? The students must have only heard about it, not seen it. Been there before, so they can gain some knowledge. Also, more. We can also prepare some tables and chairs to put outside the cafeteria. There is an open space there. Even if you plant some ordinary flowers and plants, it would be nice to sit outside and eat while enjoying the scenery. Scholars like this kind of elegant thing. Then the canteen will be more than just a place to sell food." Ms. Lee listened carefully to her son's words. Seeing him dancing happily, she also laughed. "Mom doesn't understand these things. Just ask Funiur. This child has a lot of ideas in his mind. You two, let's discuss it." While talking like this, the mother and son walked to the end of the field. Wu Laoju and others were very concerned about it. After all, this vegetable field would be taken care of by their family in the future. "Let's go back first. I'll come over to visit the village chief in the evening and try to make arrangements for today so that you can settle down and start working tomorrow," Li Lao-san said. Everyone got on the carriage and went all the way back to the town. Jiyan woke up early and saw no one at home. Guessing that they were busy, he made trouble with his sister-in-law to buy sticky cakes. Wenjuan took the change and took her sister-in-law out. Soon, I came back with a box of sticky cakes. Jiyan took my sister-in-law with her, and they sat under the eaves of the veranda and ate together. Shui Ling also got 2 pieces and started eating them with a smile. So Ms. Lee and others came back from outside. When they entered the door, they saw 2 people sitting under the eaves, one big and one small, playing with sticky cakes. Jiyan and Shui Ling are just fine. Wenjuan is the daughter-in-law, and it would be rude for her grandmother and father-in-law to see her being so childish. She blushed and quickly stuffed the sticky cake into her mouth, choking violently. Ms. Lee's smiling face had a few wrinkles on her face. She stepped forward and patted her granddaughter-in-law on the back, comforting her. "Why are you panicking? We are all a family, who can laugh at you?" Wenjuan's face turned redder, but her heart felt sweet. Grandma was treating her like a child. After a while, Zhao Yuru, Tao Hongying, and others also came back. There are many rooms in the small courtyard, but with so many people living there at once, it is still a bit crowded. Hence, second sister-in-law son and Dazu's daughter-in-law made preparations and went to the canteen to settle down tonight. They had just tidied up the place quickly. Zhao Yuru didn't stop them either, leaving them to have a good meal. For a while, the women were crowded in the kitchen cooking, and the men were sitting at the door chatting. The elderly and children sit under the eaves and eat sticky cakes. The small courtyard is extremely lively. Let's talk about Zinken. In the courtyard of the Li family, Li Lao had no appetite at all when facing the 2 dishes on the table, a bowl of white rice. "I just took my sister-in-law and niece to Luowan. Why didn't the eldest brother stay in the restaurant and didn't come back? How pitiful he was to be the only one eating in this huge courtyard. Even Shui Yun, Zheng He, Zhang Feng and Ye Tong were also gathered in the kitchen, eating lively. He simply found a tray, brought the food, and went straight to the backyard to find Uncle Zhao and other old men to eat together. Uncle Zhao couldn't help laughing when he saw Li Laoer entering the door like this. Uncle Wei offered a chair to Li Laoer and joked, "Why, Uncle, you have been abandoned by the family and no one cares about you anymore." "That's right," Li Laoer couldn't tell whether to laugh or cry. "I suspect that eldest brother asked me to be his uncle just to keep me in charge of the house." Everyone laughed. Uncle Zhao specially opened the wine jar and divided half a bowl into each person. He also told Li Laoer, "Drink. Go home and go to bed after drinking. Otherwise, the house will be quietest at night and you will feel even worse." This is based on experience. You must know that before they met the Li family, they had spent countless long nights like this. Li Laoer didn't want the old men to think of the sad past, so he quickly changed the conversation and said that the family's fleet was coming back and he would take the old men to the dock in a car. Since the old men arrived at Broken Gold Beach, they rarely went into the city, let alone go out for long walks. They are like loyal old yellow dogs, guarding the door of the house conscientiously, day and night, never slacking off. Now that I heard that they were going out for a walk, everyone was happy, but they couldn't leave home. They started talking about it, which made the dinner table even more lively. There was nothing to say all night, and early the next morning, Li Laosan led Wu Laoju and his family to a village called Ziahe outside the town. Last night, he had already met with the village chief of Ziahe village, sent generous gifts, and leased out 20 acres of land. He even found a yard for an old man living alone in the village and rented 3 adobe rooms. At this time, Wu Laoju and his family brought bedding, pots and pans, and a small car together, so they could go directly to the village to settle down. Sister-in-law Wuju didn't talk much, but she had a smiling face. Seeing the carriage entering the village and being surrounded by children, she took out the sesame candies she bought yesterday and scattered them around, making the children happily run home. After a while, the whole village knew that there was a new person. As the village chief brought his brother Tianman Kang and his family around, everyone heard more clearly after exchanging pleasantries. The Li family is kind and generous. In addition to the taxes and grain that must be paid on the land that is leased out, the Li family and the tenants share half of the remaining harvest. This is much better than the market price. At least 1 mu of land a year can give a tenant an extra 20 or 30 kilograms of grain. 10 acres of land is 2 to 300 kilograms. Don't underestimate these 200 kilograms of grain. In times of disaster, it is enough for a family to survive. Some villagers felt jealous and envious when they heard this, and became unhappy. They whispered sourly, "When did this happen? Why didn't we know that the land outside the village was going to be leased? Such a good thing has been taken over by the Tian family." Just then, the Bai family, the second largest family in the village, came over at this time. The 3 sons of the Bai family are all married, and no one dares to bully them in the village. At this moment, a villager hurried over and said a few words, and finally complained, "The Tian family has taken advantage of all the good things, and is prepared to prevent us from fighting over it. It was secretly decided last night, and it was only announced this morning." End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 467. Chapter 467. You are not as sensible as a dog. I didn't want the Bai family to answer the call, but walked over and started talking and laughing with Li Laosan and Wu Laoju. The villagers were extremely surprised, and finally they found out that the Bai family had also been granted 10 acres of land. At this time, they had absolutely no choice but to stand at a distance with a dull face. Soon, Li Laosan and Wu Laoju took the Tian family and the Bai family to the fields. The Tian family's daughter-in-law and the Bai family's daughter-in-law helped Wuju's sister-in-law arrange her things. After chatting for a while, they happily came out of the courtyard. The Tian family's daughter-in-law opened her mouth and ordered two younger daughters-in-law who were good friends with her on weekdays, and said, "Go home quickly and get a bucket, a pole, and a water ladle. Come with us to the fields to water the vegetable seedlings. We'll be there before dark. Come back and get 20 wages a day." The two young wives immediately became happy and came forward to inquire. The others' eyes became hot when they heard this, and they also started chirping. The Tian family's wife smiled even more and spoke a few more words to everyone. The Bai family's daughter-in-law was not to be outdone, and would add supplementary information from time to time. After a while, everyone knew that 10 acres of green vegetables would be planted outside the village to supply the canteen of the academy. Although they did not get a share of the land, the villagers were enthusiastic when they thought about how much work they could get from 10 acres of vegetable land. Planting vegetables, picking vegetables, watering, and weeding, manpower is needed everywhere. Standing guard at the door of the house, it is convenient to come and go, the work is not tiring, and the salary is 20 cents a day. Even if you work for 5 or 6 days a month, it is enough for your family to buy lamp oil and coarse salt. So the women began to express their loyalty one after another. One said that she was efficient at work, and the other said that she was strong. They almost caused a quarrel. Sister-in-law Wuju was listening in the courtyard and felt much more at ease. Not to mention that the field was lively, just that the young and old of the Li family had breakfast and went to the academy cafeteria. The canteen is located in the southwest corner of the academy. Perhaps for the convenience of transporting firewood, rice, and vegetables, a separate corner door was opened here. It had been locked up before, but now the key has been given to the Li family. This way you don't have to go through the main gate every time, and you don't have to walk across the entire academy. It is said to be a dining hall, but it is actually 5 large rooms facing north, with 3 rooms in the west wing. The east side is empty, with a simple fence built around it. There are 5 main rooms, and the westernmost one is used as a warehouse, where some grain and groceries are usually piled. The second room is the kitchen. As soon as you enter the door, there are 2 large stoves, with 7 or 8 large pots installed, plus 2 small stoves and a small stove. There is also a row of chopping boards in the middle of the room for cutting vegetables. There was actually a small well dug at the far end, and 2 pools built with bluestone next to it. The pools all had water outlets connected to clay pipes as thick as pottery bowls, which drain the dirty water directly into the ditch outside the house. In this way, fetching water, washing vegetables, washing dishes, and finally draining them out, it becomes a veritable assembly line, clean and convenient. 2 of the remaining 3 houses were opened up and equipped with more than 20 sets of tables and chairs. Each set of tables and chairs can seat 8 people and can accommodate 200 people dining at the same time. The last house, which was originally a residence for hired workers, has now been vacated. The wall facing the dining hall is being dug out for doors and windows. It's just that the construction has just started, it's a bit messy, and I can't see what it will look like yet. Groundwork is also being done on the 3 wing rooms outside, and a kong is being built in one of them. Dazwang and brother Sun had their hands full of mud and sweat on their tired heads, but they smiled brightly. Mrs. Li took her granddaughter for a walk in and out of the cafeteria. When she got there, she told them not to be too tired. The work could not be completed in one day. Jiyan knew, however, that they planned to finish the construction and move in early. These 3 wing rooms, the 2 of them plus Aunt Wu and her family can all get one. From now on, the students will be taken care of during the day and they will sleep here at night. They will take turns keeping watch at night, guarding the warehouse. Grandma and grandson walked around several times, and finally Li Lao-san came back. Mrs. Li called him to see the dean. Mrs. Li is a first-grade imperial concubine. It is more than enough for her to come forward. It would be too grand to add Jian, the little princess. So the good news was handed over to Aunt He. Seeing her grandma and uncle walking away with the prepared flower pots, Jian encouraged Grandma He to take her to adventure farther away. She came to the academy several times before, but she never had the chance to walk around. Without waiting for Nanny He to respond, a crisp sound suddenly came from the room. She turned around and was about to run in, but was stopped by Granny He, who insisted on carrying her on her back before entering the dining hall. Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru looked ugly. There were 4 people standing opposite them, 2 men and 2 women. There was a large earthenware basin on the table between them, and there was a pile of dirty dishes in the earthenware basin. Tao Hongying grabbed one and threw it at the feet of several people. They were so frightened that they jumped and started shouting. One of the women, who was fat and had a slender face, had a particularly high-pitched voice. "Why did you hit me? You are the boss, so you are great. We didn't sign a death contract, so we are not your slaves." Another woman also said, "Yes, we have all told you that it was because you were not feeling well that you delayed your work. If you are not happy, just say, 'Who are you going to show by throwing bowls and plates?'" Tao Hongying sneered and responded, "So you're not blind? You can still see that what I threw was a bowl and plate. Then why didn't you see how dirty the bowl and plate were? After 3 full days, I asked you to clean a basin of dishes, and you actually did it like this. Now you dare to come here and yell, 'Who gives you face?' To put it bluntly, even if the dogs in our village are brought here and licked with their tongues, they can clean them better than you. Then go and fetch the dog. What are you asking us to do?" "We don't want to do it yet." The fat woman rolled her eyes fiercely, looking very arrogant and confident. Tao Hongying was not afraid at all and retorted fiercely, "It's fine to bring the dog here. After all, my family often feeds the dogs with leftovers and lets them work. They must be obedient. Even while working, it will wag its tail. But what about you? You have received your wages and still don't want to work. What do you think? Don't tell me, you are not as sensible as a dog." You are not as sensible as a dog," the fat lady jumped angrily. Tao Hongying glanced at her and said coolly, "Why are you in a hurry? You are more sensible than a dog, so that's fine." The fat lady thought she had won the quarrel. She was about to be happy, but then she felt that her words were inappropriate. Looking at Zhao Yuru opposite, her 3 companions all had strange expressions on their faces. She finally came to her senses and became completely irritated. The fat lady rolled up her sleeves and was about to hit someone. "You little bitch, how dare you scold me?" Who would have thought that Tao Hongying was even more nimble than her? Before she could take action, she had already slapped her with a slap that made stars appear in her eyes. "Who are you calling a bitch? My husband is a guard of the Pier Border Guard. He patrols day and night and fights against the barbarians. Is he protecting idiots like you?" Tao Hongying raised her foot and kicked the fat woman in the stomach. She fell to the ground in pain. The other 3 wanted to help, but hesitated when they heard the word guard general. Taking advantage of this time, Tao Hongying had already picked up the sweeping broom, stepped on the woman, and opened it with a crackle. "I'm sorry for you fools like you. You have 2 eyes in vain and all your brains are filled with lard. Whoever pays you to work is the master. You take other people's money and you have to put on a show. Do you think our family is short of a pig like you? If we don't feed you, our family will have nowhere to put the food and throw away the money. I didn't like you last night, and you still dare to bully my 3rd sister-in-law. I haven't been able to blush with her for so many years. Who do you think I am?" The 4th update is here. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 468. Chapter 468. Let's all comment. The fat woman was beaten and howled as if she was killing a pig. Tao Hongying's men were also merciless, and they really put in a lot of effort. Fortunately, it is early spring now, so everyone is wearing not too thin clothes. The fat lady even wore 2 or 3 layers of a middle coat and outer blouse. But this is actually more beneficial to Tao Hongying, because when the broom is pulled out, there is no trace, but it still hurts. Zhao Yuru was afraid of causing a big trouble, so she finally stopped her siblings and advised them, Hongying, just give them a lesson. Such people are not worth getting angry with. Tao Hongying then threw the broom and cursed, next time you act rogue, remember to wipe your eyes clean. Don't you want to see if our family is something you can afford to mess with? You're lucky to have met me here today. If my child's father were here, I'd catch you and throw you against the wall, and I'll make sure your head is as yellow as an egg. The fat woman was crying and wanted to get up, but her whole body hurt. Tao Hongying looked at the remaining 3 people again, so scared that they quickly shrank their necks. The woman among them whispered, we don't dare to be lazy anymore, we must work hard. No need, Tao Hongying snorted coldly, as long as we pay wages, we can't find good people anywhere, so why are you left in the canteen, plotting behind your back? Get out of here, if you dare to show up in the cafeteria again, your legs will be broken. The 3 of them all looked bad when they heard this, and finally panicked. They cannot be unemployed and just rely on this job to make money to survive. It was only through a lot of favors that I entered the canteen. It's just that there has been little activity in the cafeteria in the past 2 years. Except for students who come to buy pancakes and steamed buns in the morning, no one comes here at noon and evening. They also developed the habit of being lazy and only taking money without doing any work. This time the Li family took over the canteen. When I heard that they would have to sell food in the morning, noon, and evening, and serve the students to eat and drink, the work must be several times more than before. None of them were willing to work, but they wanted to use the excuse of more work to increase their wages, so they discussed it together and decided on this delaying strategy. Thinking that the Li family was unfamiliar with the canteen and worried about their backers, there would definitely be nothing they could do. Not only do they have to get high wages, but they also give their employers a leg up, so they can continue to be lazy in the future. I have to say that the plan is good and the idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. At this moment, the 3 of them were all upset. They looked at each other and quickly knelt down. The woman wanted to hug Tao Hongying's thigh and cried out, Madam, please spare us this time. We don't dare to do it again. We will work hard in the future. I still have a 3-year-old child at home. If a man drinks and doesn't work, if I don't have any errands, the family will definitely be in trouble. The 2 men also kowtowed, and one of them said, Madam, we were wrong. We really didn't want to do this. It was all instigated by these 2 women. The fat woman finally struggled to get up. She was a little confused when she saw her companion like this. We agreed to charge into battle together, but I was shot into a target. Even if you didn't help me, why did you surrender directly to the enemy? She couldn't help but cursed, didn't we agree to be tied together and take care of the new owner? The 2 men wanted to spit on her face, and one of them cursed, you are a stupid pig, inciting us to make trouble. You are a fellow dean, you have people to support you, but we don't. If you want to make trouble, you can continue to make trouble, we don't come with me, we have to work hard. Tao Hongying was too lazy to listen to the dog-eat-dog fight between them, so she called Uncle Wu for help, and sent the basin of dirty dishes and chopsticks to the outside gate, and then called the 4 people to stand aside. The dining hall is close to where all the gentlemen live. Many of their family members and servants are walking around outside. They were originally curious about the buzzing in the canteen. It was very busy and they wanted to take a look at it more if they had nothing to do. What's more, several handymen were brought out with basins at this time. Within a moment, more than a dozen people gathered at the door. Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru were standing on the steps. Tao Hongying secretly pushed Zhao Yuru. Her meaning was obvious. She could help out, but only for a while. Zhao Yuru would still have to run the canteen in the future, so he couldn't hide behind her all the time. Zhao Yuru also understood this truth, so she took a deep breath and summoned up the courage to say, "Brothers and sisters, we have been entrusted by the dean to reopen the canteen. We have been cleaning and making new arrangements in the past few days. Originally, I wanted to keep these handy men. After all, they are more familiar with the canteen and expected them to help. However, I didn't expect that these people actually acted rogue. The four of them only cleaned one pot and bowl in 3 days, and they even washed the dishes. It's so dirty, it's simply too much. In the future, when students all come to eat, how can they eat with such bowls and plates? Even if they eat, they will spoil their stomachs and delay their studies. Just like this, they are still clamoring for a salary increase, but they won't get it. We must stop our canteen from opening. Our academy is a place for teaching and educating people, and the cafeteria is a place where students can study with peace of mind. We really can't keep these scoundrels. Otherwise, if one day they feel angry and put something in the food, it will be really bad. It killed the academy." The onlookers all nodded when they heard this. They lived close to each other, so they naturally noticed the virtues of the people in the cafeteria. They were not really diligent people. Now it is not possible to bully the new owner, and it is appropriate to be kicked out. Just like Zhao Yuru said, if they use some dirty tricks, the entire academy will suffer. Someone said loudly, "Such a person really shouldn't be kept here." Some people also laughed and said, "They didn't work for wages before, but they won't be able to take advantage in the future." The four handymen's faces were all dark. They thought the new owner would be able to keep them after pulling them out and scolding them a few times. In the end, I got through the scolding, but the job was still lost. Especially the fat lady, she was furious at that time, jumping up and down and cursing, "Just wait for me, I'll go find the dean and kick you out. If the college has you, I won't be there, and if I have you, I can't be there." At this time, Mrs. Lee and Mr. Lee came back. After hearing a few simple words from her daughter-in-law, Mrs. Lee ignored the four handymen and instead told her son, "I don't want these dishes anymore. They are so dirty that they can't be used even if they are scalded with hot water. What if the children have a bad stomach? Tell the third child that the opening will have a new look, and all the pots and pans will be replaced with new ones." Zhao Yuru immediately responded, "Yes, mother, I originally wanted to replace them with new ones. But it's a pity to keep these old ones for nothing. It would be better to wash them and keep them for later use." Who would have thought that they would make them even dirtier? Orange Mrs. Lee nodded, took her son and daughter-in-law and turned into the yard. The fat lady and the three handymen were left standing there, unable to believe that the matter had ended like this. They were really kicked out of the canteen and would have no more errands. They were not even compensated for their wages for the past few days. The fat lady was even more furious, covered her face and ran away. No need to guess, this is a complaint. The other three people also wanted to file a complaint and find someone to support them, but they did not dare. At first, the Lee family acted too tough, and it was not always easy to find someone. Secondly, they are really in the wrong. The only thing we can count on now is the fat lady. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 469. Chapter 469, The Evildoers Complain First. The husband of the fat lady is also named Joe, and he is of the same race as Dean Joe. Speaking of which, he is also called Uncle Wu-Tang. But I don't move around much on weekdays, just to save face. The dean's wife was taking the maid to prepare tea and snacks, because her husband had just got a good flower and was so happy that he wanted to show off. Just now, the book boy has gone out to invite some gentlemen who are good friends and love flowers. The guests were coming soon, and as the head of the house, she had to make arrangements to entertain them. She still couldn't hide her blush when she remembered that her husband was as happy as a child just now, holding her in his arms and turning around half a circle. They are an old married couple, how embarrassing it is for the slaves to see. At this moment, the fat lady came to see her. She did not allow the concierge to announce her, and she cried from the door to the courtyard, as if the sky had fallen. Mrs. Joe was really filled with sweetness and joy, and was completely ruined. Even so, she still had to patiently invite the fat lady into the room and ask in a gentle voice, "Aunt Wu-Tang, what happened? Why are you crying so hard?" The fat lady felt even more aggrieved. She turned her face to Mrs. Joe to see her swollen cheeks and cried so much that she felt aggrieved. "My nephew-in-law, you have to make the decision for me. The Lee family is such a bully, they rented the canteen and want to use their own people. They don't like us at all. In the past few days, they have been making things difficult for us, and we have tolerated it, but today they actually took action, pushing me to the ground and beating me. I had to fight hard to come here to ask for help, otherwise I would have. I'm afraid they're all dead." Mrs. Joe frowned, not wanting to believe what the fat lady said, but the mark of the slap was clear, so she poured tea for the fat lady and persuaded in a low voice, "Speak slowly, Aunt Wu-Tang, we are already home, no need to worry." As she spoke, the maid next to her winked, and the maid immediately withdrew. The fat lady thought that Mrs. Joe had believed her, so she became even more aggrieved. She cried with snot and tears as she continued to complain. "They knew clearly that I was from the Joe family, so they picked me to bully me among the four of them. They caught me and beat me to death. They just didn't take our Joe family seriously. But why don't they think about whose family the academy belongs to? They are coming to our house to bully our family." Mrs. Joe listened without interrupting. During this period, several gentlemen came, and she even went out to say hello. The fat lady was almost done crying, and she gradually began to feel something was wrong. It seems that Mrs. Joe kept nodding in response, but didn't say anything to support her. She couldn't bear it anymore, so she pulled Mrs. Joe's sleeve and asked, "My niece-in-law, are you sending someone to drive away the Lee family? How can such a family take over the canteen?" Mrs. Joe pulled her sleeves back without leaving a trace, and responded perfunctorily, "It is the dean's decision to let the Lee family take over the canteen, and I am not qualified to expel them. There are still guests today. Do you want to wait until the guests leave? The dean said it himself." The fat woman lowered her head subconsciously. "Dean Joe is very prestigious among the clan members and is extremely wise. She is so petty and can deceive Mrs. Joe, but she will immediately reveal her true colors in front of the dean." What she didn't know was that even Mrs. Joe had not been deceived by her. Soon, the maid came back from outside, glanced at the fat lady in a vague way, and reported, "Madam, I went to the entrance of the cafeteria and asked around. Just now, the Lee family did beat someone and kicked out all the handymen." The fat lady seemed to have been refreshed immediately, but before she could speak, the maid continued, "It is said that the handymen were too lazy, and the four of them were wasted. After 3 days, they only cleaned one bowl and it was still extremely dirty. The Lee family was so angry that they kicked people out. The bowl is still in front of the cafeteria at the moment." The slave looked carefully and found that it must have not been washed at all. The leftovers left on it have been dried. It looks like it is 10.5 days old. Mrs. Joe's face turned cold and she looked at the fat woman. The fat lady felt guilty and defended in a low voice, "I had diarrhea and felt unwell, so I wasted up on my work." But the maid mercilessly took off her fig leaf and said, "Even if we have diarrhea, 4 people can't have diarrhea at the same time, and the diarrhea lasts for 3 days. If it was so serious, I'd probably lie down long ago and be unable to get up, but that's not the case so lively. The fat lady became angry and shouted, "Yes, I just didn't do any work." "What's wrong?" "The work is 4 or 5 times more than before. Is it wrong for me to raise my wages? Besides, I just don't agree to the wage increase. They can't hit anyone either." The maid curled her lip secretly and said, "I understand, it was the fourth lady of the Lee family who beat him, and it was you who first called the fourth lady a bitch. Not to mention that the fourth lady's husband is an official. Let's just say that the Lee family also has a title, but not everyone can scold you, not to mention a slap in the face, even a whip. You have to bear it." Mrs. Joe nodded and said, "Fifth aunt, originally I thought you were being bullied. You are of the same race, so you definitely shouldn't be treated as a joke. But now you don't work and you want to get a raise. If you don't get a raise, you're scolding. Now that I was fired, there was nothing I could do. You'd better find another job. If this matter continues and the dean knows about it, and you have disgraced the Joe family, I'm afraid there will be other punishments, and the fifth aunt will not even regret it." The fat woman was a little dumbfounded and wanted to say something else. Mrs. Joe mentioned her son again. "Brother Chang is quite talented in reading. He may be able to get a degree and come back in the future. And 5, it's best to be more restrained in your daily behavior. Don't worry for the sake of temporary pleasure, the child's good future is delayed." The fat woman immediately shut up and did not dare to say a word. Her son who is studying is her Achilles heel. At the entrance of the cafeteria, the 3 handymen waited for more than an hour, but the fat lady did not come back. Even a fool knew that there was no hope. They wanted to go to the cafeteria to beg again, but De Zhuang and second brother's son stared at them coldly, and struck hard with the axe in their hands, causing the wood as thick as a human head to split. They didn't dare to fight anymore, so they turned around and ran away. They can't run away. Maybe their heads will be the next ones to be hacked. In the yard, brother Sun and De Zhuang couldn't help laughing. De Zhuang cursed in a low voice. These cowards thought they were capable, but they ran away after being scared. If they were sent into the woods like this, they would be so scared that they would wet their pants if they saw a single wolf hair. That's right, brother Sun shook his head in agreement. I only dare to be arrogant because there are people behind me. In fact, I have no real ability at all. In the room, Aunt He, Shui Ling, third Aunt Wu, Daz Wang's wife, second sister-in-law Sun, Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru were all busy. Seeing that the sun was about to reach its peak, Tao Hongying started cooking. She had agreed to let the children come here to eat today, so she had to prepare more. Zhao Yuru felt sorry when she saw that her grandmother was sweating from being busy and had to cook, so she said, "Hongying, take a rest for a while, and I'll do it." End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 470. Chapter 470. My mother-in-law has the most double standards. Tao Hongying smiled and waved her hands to comfort her sister-in-law. "Sister-in-law, don't be polite to us family members. This is a big business for you and third brother, and we are all here to help organize it. In the future, if the fourth brother and I want to do something busy, can you and third brother still do it? Can you watch it?" "Of course not." Zhao Yuru quickly shook her head, causing Tao Hongying to smile even more. "That's it, our family should help each other. Besides, I have to go to the restaurant in 3 days, I think. There's no time left to help." After saying that, she went to the kitchen. Mrs. Lee had nothing to do. Whatever she did, people would her away, so she took her granddaughter to help pick and wash vegetables. Jiyan rolled up her sleeves and wanted to help, but Grandma stuffed her with 2 sticky cakes and pushed her aside to sit on a small bench. As long as she is honest, glues her mouth shut, and doesn't get into trouble, she will be helping. Although there is no sauce vat here, there are water vats, rice vats. Ji-yeon thought grandma felt sorry for her, so she happily stretched the sticky cake and ate it deliciously. If she knew what grandma really thought, she would probably vomit blood. Jeongtan cheated her so much that she even lost the basic trust between grandparents and grandchildren. When the sun rose above the head, Jiren brought his brothers to look for him. As soon as we entered the yard, we saw my sister sitting at the door with her fat face in her arms, eagerly waiting for them. Several boys ran over like crazy, hugging each other, kissing each other, and making a scene with laughter. Mrs. Lee came out of the house, shook the water drops on her hands, and shouted to her grandchildren with a smile, "How many times have I told you, Fu-niu has grown up and we can't always be so close to her." It's a pity that the boys didn't listen at all and ran all over the courtyard with their sister in their arms. I was originally happy about the good news, but then I heard Brother Cat pestering my grandma and asking, "Grandma, my sister is just a little fat. Where did she grow up?" "Don't worry, we don't think my sister is fat." Ji-yeon rolled his eyes and complained crazily in his heart. "What a good brother, thank you for not thinking I'm fat." After a while of fussing, the whole family started eating. There were 2 tables set up in the dining hall, one for men and one for women. Having been busy all morning, Tao Hongying had no intention of making elaborate meals. She just stewed cabbage, tofu, and pork belly, braised rabbit with dried vegetables, cold wild vegetables and egg drop soup. Each table is filled with 4 small pottery pots, plus a large pot of steamed rice. Whether it's tearing down walls and building a kong, or washing and rinsing, it's all laborious work, and everyone subconsciously uses their chopsticks to apply force to the rabbit meat. Ji-yeon gnawed on the rabbit legs a little faster as she scrambled to eat more delicious ones. These rabbits were all taken out from the space last night. I can't say, but tonight I will find a few more fattest rabbits and let them fulfill the ultimate contribution of rabbit life, the temple, to honor the 5 internal organs of the whole family. Soon, the food was cleared away, and even the vegetable soup was eaten with rice. They all had enough to eat and drink, but they refused to take a break and went back to work. After all, if you finish cleaning up the day earlier, you can open the business the day earlier. Jiren took his younger brothers, tucked up the skirts of his long gown, and started busy too. Carrying sand and gravel, moving bricks, and going back and forth several times inside and outside the house, the boys were all exhausted and dripping with sweat. Second brother Sun, Did Shuang, third Uncle Wu and others looked on in fear and tried to the work from their hands several times, for fear that they would stretch their arms or duck their waists. But Mrs. Lee stopped them and supported her grandchildren to help with the work. Of course she feels distressed when her grandchildren are tired. But she is more afraid that her children will develop a selfish temperament of getting something for nothing. Rather than studying and becoming talented, she would rather their children know how to be grateful. A family must care for each other, understand each other, and give to each other in order to go further. It is not about who has to pay or sacrifice unilaterally to fulfill other people. Especially Brother Lee and Brother Mao, who have never experienced hardship since childhood and have no idea how difficult it is to support a family. In their short lives, except for the blows given to them by their mother Wang Yi, there was nothing wrong with them. She doesn't mind letting these 2 grandsons take this opportunity to experience more of the sufferings of the world. Fortunately, Brother Mao and Brother Lee gritted their teeth and followed behind their brothers, even though they were very tired. No one was lying. Seeing that class was about to begin, the boys hurriedly washed their hands and faces, then waved to their families and ran away quickly. Zhao Yuru and Tao Hongying stood beside their mother-in-law, their faces full of pride. Tao Hongying praised, "Our children will definitely do nothing wrong in the future." Old Mrs. Lee also had a smile on her face, but she spoke modestly, "Children have to be beaten without praise. Let's just talk about this, but we can't let the kids." Halfway through her words, Her expression suddenly changed, she got up and walked quickly to the woodpile. She snatched the axe from her fat granddaughter's hand and threw it aside, complaining angrily. Grandma said, "You are not allowed to touch these things, why are you disobedient? What if you hurt your hand, what if you hit your foot? Even if you're not injured, you're still too tired, your body should be sore when you go to bed at night, leave your brothers to do these jobs when they come back from school." Jian was actually just idle and wanted to try chopping firewood, but as soon as he picked up the axe, his grandma caught him. She quickly responded, "Grandma, I want to help too." "Oh, oh, our Fu Niu is so smart and well behaved. I feel so sorry for my family. Grandma's eldest granddaughter, I really can't feel enough pain in my heart. There really is no one in the world who is more filial and sensible than our Fu Niu. It's a child." Old Mrs. Li hugged her fat granddaughter with a smile on her face, and her compliments came out one after another as if they were free. Tao Hongying and Zhao Yura grinned when they heard this and looked at each other, both of them dumbfounded. It was agreed that the children should work more and experience the sufferings of the world. It is agreed that children cannot praise, but they still have to be beaten from time to time. It turns out that it was all reserved for the grandson, but when it came to the granddaughter, it completely changed. The busy days always pass quickly, and 3 days pass by in a flash. Although the good news was always pouring food and drink out of the space, and there was no meat on the table at any time, the family members, old and young, still lost weight. However, the results are also remarkable, and the canteen has finally been renovated. Not only was a door and 2 large windows opened between the kitchen and the dining room, but 4 small private rooms were also separated. Even in the open space on the east side of the courtyard, tables and chairs have been set up, and large parasols have been supported. There are flower beads around. Although there are no famous flowers, the fence is covered with roses. There are all kinds of colorful flowers under the feet. The breeze blows, which makes people feel relaxed and happy. Ever since this small garden was taken care of, the Li family's lunch has been served here. Especially the 6 large parasols, which were specially made by Li Lao-san. The umbrella handle is as thick as a man's wrist. The umbrella made of oil paper is unfolded, 1 foot in diameter, and painted with various patterns, which is elegant and beautiful. Under the umbrella is a round table with a hole in the middle. The handle of the umbrella is inserted into it, which is enough to cover all those sitting at the table. Whether it is to provide sun protection in spring and autumn, shelter from rain in summer, or snow protection in winter, it is enough for the job. The kids like to run around here, and Jiyan likes to move a small bench to sit here, eat snacks, and be in a daze. Even Jiaran would bring a book and take advantage of the short free time at noon or evening to sit here drinking tea and reading. End of this chapter.